this is Dee Dee Russell at beautiful Madigan's Waterfront in Occoquan, Virginia. We have an expert panel today discussing incredible topics that will help you plan your wedding, save some money, and make it a much better experience overall. This is FXBG.TV featuring KK Media.
This is a petal tip, and this is just a standard Wilton buttercream recipe. And you want the thinnest point of the tip at the top, and you're going to form the center of your rose just here on the cupcake, spinning the cupcake around, and then you're going to start to form your petals like so. An even pressure on the bag, turn the cupcake around, and you want to just gently tilt the tip back a little bit as you're pulling around and form the rose petals.
Here is our expert panel. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's get started meeting all of you, and we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
I'm Lakeisha Bankston Glover of Lakeisha's Inspiring Looks. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram with Lakeisha's Inspiring Looks.
I'm Rebecca Wilbur, Rebecca Naomi Cake Design. I have a website, www.RebeccaNaomiCakeDesign.com, and you can find me on Facebook also.
I'm Karen Gahn with All About You Limousines. You can find us at www.allaboutyou.limo or on Facebook.
Hi, I'm Torcia Anderson with The Family Affair. You can find us at www.afamilyaffair event management or also on Facebook.
Hi, I'm Rochelle with Rochelle Beauty Gossip. I'm with hair and makeup for all occasions, and you can find me on Facebook or in Instagram with Rochelle Beauty Gossip.
Our topic today is the wedding explosion, basically. I mean, you know, there's 52,000 weddings a year in Virginia. 40% just got engaged in the holiday season. That's like 25,000 couples all in one moment. Now they're out the door. It's 2016 and they need their wedding vendors. So they're going to find a lot of venues that are booked up. They're going to maybe need to be a little flexible if they want a 2016 wedding. Maybe choose a Sunday. VAWE-network.com can help couples for free to find venues that still have dates available. But let's talk about the venue-vendor relationship. A lot of people don't consider how vital that is to the success of a wedding, but it is absolutely important. Is your venue vendor friendly? So we're going to go around our panel and ask what are some questions couples should be asking the venue before they book the venue. It is going to make or break the success of your wedding style, what you really want. So let's go around and find some questions that we should be asking before we book the venue.
When considering hair and makeup, you want to make sure that you have a separate space for your makeup artist or for your hairstylist so that you're not crammed in a room having to share that space. You want to make sure it's sanitary. I've had the experience of having to do makeup in a bathroom that is not sanitary, ladies. We want to make sure that that space is big enough that you are comfortable, because that's the most important day of your life.
Right, so having a bridal suite or something designated and not as an afterthought. So, you know, asking when you're touring, where is the bridal suite? Where will I get ready on the day of my wedding? Very good.
Okay, for me, I'm a wedding cake maker, and you know, I've had venues that have actually charged cutting fees for your cake. You know, you assign a budget to your cake and you would pay me, and that could be an additional cost that you might not have factored in. So it can be, you know, 50 cents a slice, it could be $3 a slice. You really want to make sure that you are communicating with your venue to see if there are these additional costs.
Absolutely. So that's a vital one. With cakes and with budget, you think about it in advance, and a lot of times we go to the top end of our budget, and then there isn't a lot of flexibility for unexpected expenses. So along with the cutting fee, you know, ask for a cork fee or a bottle fee. You know, there might be some of those things that could add up to hundreds of dollars by the time you add it all up that you may not have expected, and no one wants that on their wedding day. These are things that come up on the wedding day. You want to enjoy that day. So that's an excellent question to ask. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
So from my point of view, I believe, does your venue have a specific person that works with your vendors on a day-to-day basis? Is there a phone number, an email, some type of contact where they can get in touch with your wedding venue that you've chosen? I think that's really important.
Well, and the reason that's important is because, you know, logistics. Do you have 50 guests coming to your wedding or 250? Are there 125? How are they parking? How are they getting there? What is the transportation? If let's take Luray, for example. Gorgeous place, booming wedding industry. a lot of the guests will stay somewhere else. They'll stay in cabins or something. They'll have a 3-day weekend. You know, we're in Occoquan here. Gorgeous, gorgeous area, limited parking. So when you're thinking of your venue, how are you going to your guests going to get to the venue? Where are they going to park? If you have limo or shuttle transportation or even a horse and carriage, you know, if that's your dream to come up in that beautiful limo and have that transportation access, are they going to get in and out, and where do they park? And you don't want that to come up the day of when the limo pulls up and they say, no, you can't be here. You cannot park here. You can't be in this area. You know, is there designated specific terms that your venue has to accommodate these things? Very important. Absolutely.
Very important.
All right, Torsha.
I think for me, from the wedding planning aspect, we need to make sure that before they sign their contract that they're allowed to bring their own wedding planner or their own vendors. A lot of times you have to use the venue-specific preferred vendors there. And I think that that's a problem for some brides. At least I've encountered that they want to hire me to handle the terms of their contract, their negotiations, their setup. But a lot of times, if they've already signed that contract, they have to use that designated wedding planner.
So let's talk about that. Could be thousands of dollars of difference right
Yes.
there. Now some venues, they have a great relationship. They have preferred vendors, and this is just trial and error. Some vendors have come, it hasn't worked out, it was a very negative experience for the venue, and based on that, they've selected a group, but you still have flexibility there. The difference is a venue that may specifically say, you have to use this DJ, you have to use this wedding planner, you have to use these caterers. There's a lot of variations involved in that. Again, a caterer could have damaged their kitchen, and this is just based on what logistically works best for their venue. Or could it be that those vendors have fees that they have to pay the venue to work there, and you don't ever know about it? If every vendor working at a venue is required to pay 10 to 20% to work there, and they're not allowed to discuss that with the couples, where do those extra fees go? Those go out of your wedding budget, and that could be thousands of dollars of difference. So when you are working with a venue and you're talking about my vendors that are coming in, do make sure that you ask the question, do you charge vendors to work here? And the next question would be, you know, do I have the flexibility in hiring the vendors that I really like? And that's absolutely vital, because you need to be happy with the vendors. They need to listen to you. It's a personal decision. Somebody else should not be making for you. So that's a huge factor. And I do want to say, if, you know, sometimes there's fees or things like that based on kitchens, that's different, and sometimes the caterers will explain that to you. But when everyone that's working there is required this offsite fee and no one's allowed to discuss it, you know, that could be a big issue. So ask if your vendor is charging the vendors to work there. A venue is charging the vendors to work there. And Rochelle.
Well, another thing also, kind of combining everything we were just asking, is if they have extra fees for parking, this will probably affect their guests as well, and us, because we're most likely in a timely manner, and it could affect the time that we're trying to get to them and do our job. And the other thing would be probably if it's accessible to us to get to where we need to. We a lot of times have our kits for hair and makeup, which may include trinkets and chairs and other lighting and other issues with that. And or if catering, you know, you have a lot of foods and stuff like that, trays, is it accessible for us to get to our destination in order to make it faster and easier for us to be there?
Right. As you know, when you go to a venue, there may be several entrances. You know, I mean, which one do you go to? And no one wants to get yelled at in the hurry of the morning that an event is happening. You know, events are like, you know, they're a huge production. So some of us get nervous before an event. There may be some jitters, you know, and tension or stress. But to alleviate that so that things are seamless behind the scenes, you want to make sure your vendors have access. They know where they're going. You know, they're not parking way far away and it's hot and they're carrying cakes in, or vendors or where are the flowers. You know, so that's a very important question. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So our next question is your venue vendor friendly? We touched on some of the topics here, but I'm going to give one example that we saw go through social media and blow up a few months ago. It was very hot. And a florist that we worked with for years, an amazing florist, she goes to a venue and they have a small window of delivery. So she may have 7 venues to stop at that day to deliver flowers. And in order to accommodate a good price for you, she needs those 7 weddings, so 7 deliveries, and that makes your price go down and she can continue, you know, to be competitive. So if she has 7, 5, 4 deliveries that day, and the venue has a very small frame for the vendors to come in and set up, if she is any type of outside of that window to come in, are they going to be flexible? So this particular florist shows up at a venue she's worked at with years. They refuse her access and tell her to put the fresh, beautiful flowers in the very hot garage. Luckily, the bridal party hears this. They take the flowers and they take them inside. Had that not happened, flowers would have gone in the garage. They would have wilted and surely been a mess, probably in 20 minutes in a hot garage, and the bride would not have known what happened, and then the finger pointing. You don't want that stress on the day of your wedding. So how flexible is the venue when working with vendors? And I want to say Virginia Wedding and Event Network has done over 400 wedding venue tours. I mean, we tour venues, we document them, we connect with them, we get to know them. Most venues are so incredible to work with. They're wonderful, they make accommodations, but there's a few that may not understand how important it is to allow your vendors to do their job. So let's talk to you about how important is it for you to, what can venues do to make it easier for you to perform the duties the bride and groom have paid you to do on that wedding day?
The most important thing, especially for hair and makeup, is accessibility. We have most of the time when working with a wedding planner, our time may get cut and we have no idea when that will happen. So to be able to get in, get out, get set up, that's what's most important. If we have a venue that says, oh no, you're not slated to be here until a certain time, that can cut into an adjustment that the wedding planner has to make. And so, am I giving you the glam face that you really, really want, or am I giving you half of what you want? And I mean, most makeup artists, our goal is to make you the most beautiful on your day. So if our time gets cut, or again, we talked about space, we don't have that, then that really kind of hurts us wanting to even work with that venue again.
Right, you're wanting to provide the services you're not being allowed to, and then who wants to have that discussion on the morning of a wedding? Oh, I couldn't get in, the doors were all locked, no one was answering the phone, how did I get here? I didn't know. You know, those are things that happen. We make them look seamless, but sometimes those things where we can't get access, it just, and then it has a snowball effect. So.
I could talk about this all day, honestly, because for cakes, it's a minefield, trust me. I mean, I've had no accessibility to park, and for me, I need to be able to park close to the nearest entrance to the room that is being used for your reception. Because I did a wedding in DC recently. I had to park in a garage down the street and carry a 5-tier cake.
Oh my gosh.
And then, you know, as pleasant and as wonderful as it is that vendors will sometimes say, oh, let me help you with that. That for me is not going to work, because I'm the one that is insured to carry your cake. If they take it from me and heaven forbid they drop it, you know, there's a responsibility there. So I am the one that always has to, you know, carry through with the delivery. Another thing is timing. You know, I work with event planners and we have a really good relationship, but then I've worked at venues where they have their own designated event planner, and I can only show up to deliver the cake if the room is semi-set up. The cake table has to be ready, otherwise where am I going to store that cake whilst you're getting the cake table ready?
And the other cakes that might be in the van ready to get delivered that, you know, need to go.
The last thing is, you know, stairs. I've had to carry cakes up 4 or 5 flights of stairs by myself. If you're having a display cake, if you're having cutting cakes that are maybe being served and cut in the back, is there somewhere sanitary and cool to keep those cakes? Because if I'm delivering before the event even starts, and it could be 3-4 hours even before they actually get to cutting the cake, is it going to be, you know, in the state that it needs to be in? Is it going to be sanitary? Is it going to be cool?
Right.
I mean, yeah. So there's
is there
someone
questions. Communicating at that venue? And let me tell you, I just can't stress the importance of a wedding planner. They resolve so many of these issues, and you never even know they happen. But true story, I'm on a way to a venue last March, I think, and I scheduled this months in advance. It's a venue tour. I'm on my way out there. I get about 10 minutes away, and the entire road is shut down because of snow damage to the road, and no one told me I was going to have to do a 30-minute. So any weddings that were happening, you know, they had a representative there, and I thought, why Am I not being told when we've scheduled this and planned this for weeks that there is an entire 30-minute detour because the road to you is shut down? So anyone doing a map quest is going to get there and go down that road and know what's it. So those are, again, some reasons to definitely consider a planner. So,
well, as far as transportation, I agree with Lakeisha. It's accessibility. With your transportation, if it's a venue that we have not served, then we will take a visit to that venue prior to your wedding day, prior to your rehearsal dinner day. So we can ensure the vehicles that you want for your wedding can fit through the driveway. If there's a circular drive and you're bringing in 50 guests and we have a coach bus for you, that coach bus might not be able to get around that big bend, and we hate to drop your guest off at the end of the driveway and have them walk all the way to the venue. We're dealing with that right now, actually. So that's really important. We like to visit your venue prior, and again, having that contact where we can pick up the phone or send an email and contact that person and say, we'd like to come out and just pay a visit, 10, 15 minutes, just to see where we'll be.
And how receptive they are to say yes. That's not always going to happen, I'll tell you.
Exactly.
A limo company, a transportation company, doing that extra step to go and visit that venue, that doesn't happen all the time. So all about you, limo. Torcia?
For me, I think the vendor-venue relationship is very important because I not only am I a wedding planner, but I set up logistically the room. So like Karen said, I do need to go out and I need to measure the room. I need to know how to set up my tables, the accessible entryway, and I need to know, who my point of contact is. And a lot of times we don't have that. So when negotiating the contract, or even before the contract is signed, I think it's very important to have a person like me to go in and actually work with the on-site coordinator if they have one. Sometimes they don't have the staffing, so they require you to have an outside one. And then sometimes they also say you have to deal with their preferred vendors, but you already may have your DJ that fits in your budget. It could be, family, friend, whatever, but you already have that. You know who your cake person is going to be. So it's very hard when you go in and they say you specifically have to have, our vendors that they're working with. And then also the setup time. The setup time for me is very important. Back in August this year, I had one of the biggest weddings I've ever had for 300 people, and they only gave us 2 hours to set up the entire ballroom, which I had to use piping and draping to block off half of it as the reception and the other half as the ceremony. And then we had about 20 minutes to change or to transition from the ceremony to the reception. So that 2-hour window does not work all the time. That's one of the biggest things that I would say is that, we need to make sure we have the setup and the breakdown time. A couple of venues only have 6 hours. So you may pay $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 and you only have 6 hours. That includes our setup, that includes your ceremony or your reception, and it also includes your breakdown. So just make sure you ask a lot of questions.
Right, very good.
Well, one other thing I believe that as we start a small business around this area is that we go the extra mile with our clients. We like to research the vendors that they're going with, just so we can have that extra communication. And I'm sure that a lot of you also have a listing in your contracts where we have that extra contacts with the venue, with whoever's going to be dropping them off, photographers, etc., right? So I think we go the extra mile to try to get involved and make it a lot easier for them. However, sometimes if the venue does not allow us to ask those type of questions and the bride is not ready to or has forgotten to ask if somebody else can contact them or anything like that, just for us to be accessible to the timing that we may have there, as well as that we can perform our best and that we can give them the best service as well as the best pricing for their wedding. So I believe sometimes the extra mile of us contacting the other vendors is a lot easier. But if you have a wedding planner, they have everything handy for you. So if we have a last minute question, we can contact them. Or that extra person who can be the emergency person besides the wedding planner. It can be very easy for us to just look at our contract and look at our listings and be able to contact them if you're not available on the phone that day is very stressful. So it's very hard sometimes for brides to be thinking of minimal questions to us, but it's very stressful, and
Right.
wedding planners can take that away really easily.
What is a tip that you can offer to couples as they're searching for their vendors? My tip is save yourself a fortune and find vendors locally. If I use local resources like VAWE.network.com, we work with local vendors. We know them. We have relationships with them. We refer you to them. Some of the search engines are, could be costing them $700, $800 a month. Google, for example, might be charging them $300 a day. I mean, there's a lot of searches that are actually so expensive for your vendors. So try to cut that out. Use local services and resources. Use your wedding planner. Get one. That's my tip for you.
All right. For hair and makeup, make sure you get a trial and make sure you're comfortable with the look that you end up with.
A couple things. Tastings are important. And secondly, brides want cakes with personality now. So check your baker's portfolio. Is it really their work? Or is it, this is from Pinterest and yes, I could possibly do this. So that's really important.
And are they so amazing they're getting published everywhere?
For transportation, I would make sure your transportation provider is licensed, insured, bonded, members of their local, national, state organizations, their professional organizations. It shows that they care about their industry, so it's more likely that they care about doing a good job for you.
For me as a wedding planner, I would say do your research. Look on social media, see what their credits are, what they've done, where they've been, the relationships that they have with others, and then check out their website thoroughly. Give them a call and see, how you feel with that contact that you have over the phone, and then schedule a consultation.
Oh, and piggybacking off of that, do they call you back? How many times does it take for them to call you back? That's a big pet peeve of our brides.
And also for hair and makeup, I think it's building a relationship with our brides. Building a relationship starts with a trial, and it's where brides usually start to get more comfortable with you. And when we suggest our professional and also are open to their suggestions so that they can look their best at their day of their wedding, and that's part of building the relationship with them.
Absolutely. And one final thing, make sure that the vendors have great relationships that you choose so that they work well with others and that they're open to suggestions and communications. There's no perfect event. There's going to be issues that day. Every single wedding has several challenges. You want a team that's going to work nicely together to resolve those so you never even know about them. Thank you so much, KK Media, for filming and being here today. Thank you to our guest panel. Remember, we are Wedding FXBG.TV with VAWE.network.com. Everything we do for the couples is free, so find us online so we can help you get started. Thank you so much for joining us.